Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and today I thought we would just hang out and have a bit of a wander through the She Wolfe Tarot. So this is, I believe, the 4th edition by Serpent Fire Creations, and this deck I picked up actually pre-loved from Stephanie over at Lumeria Star. I'll leave a link to her channel. She did a really wonderful comparison of this deck with the 1st edition of the She Wolfe Tarot. So if you'd like to see the changes between the two decks, definitely go check out her video. Again, I'll leave that linked for you in the description box below. So after Stephanie did that walkthrough, I was like, this deck has been on my wish list forever, and I really liked a lot of the changes that were made in this particular edition. So I reached out to Stephanie to see if I could purchase it from her, and I did. I am excited to get to know it. So I thought I would just turn on the camera and we would do it together. So it has a really wonderful box. Nice 2-piece. Insides are really pretty. I think there has been different design work on some of the different boxes throughout the different editions of this deck. And I do believe the back is different. So on the inside of the box, and this is one of the things that really has made me really want to work with this deck, is it says, where the road ends, the journey begins. Ancient pathways are known by the future self. Your odyssey awaits amidst dunes of self-love. Sands of time do not bury our universal truth. Come now and find, beautiful seeker. The eternal ones are here to guide you and help unfold your infinite awakening. I think that's so beautiful, and I saw that somebody had read that I want to say it was a couple of years ago, but it may not have been that long. And I was kind of like, I need this deck. So it's been on my wish list for a really long time. I think this edition has a little bit of a different guidebook. Real quick, we'll talk about the cardstock. It is shiny, as you can see. I mean, it's not like shiffer shiny, but it's still shiny. It is rose gold gilded, which it feels like high quality gilding, so I don't think that's gonna bother me too much. And here are the beautiful backs, which I really do love. I have seen different backs on a couple of different editions of this deck, but I really like those. Maybe if I put this in the center, here we go. Let's put that in the center. Maybe what I'll do is move this out of the way, and we'll just kind of pop that up there so we kind of have an idea of what it is that we're working with. I would like to get the whole box in the frame, but that's probably not gonna happen. The fun of YouTube videos. Let's just trying to do the aesthetic thing, but it's just not really wanting to work for me. So the color palette in this deck, I think, is just, it's so like retro. It's so 70s. I love it. It really does call to me. Now, this is a collage deck, and the creator has made an attempt in this newer edition to add in a little bit more diversity to it, but it does have a lot of nudity, as you can see here on the first card. The figure is nude. I don't mind nudity in my decks, but I just wanted to point it out in case that is something that you want to be aware of. There is a lot of body beautiful in this deck as well, and I knew that going in. There's also mostly, if not all, young figures, young people. And again, that's not always my favorite, but I really love what's been done in the collage work in this deck, so I'm excited to really get to know it. So I'm just gonna take a quick peek through the guidebook and see if there is anything that we really need to know diving into this deck. It says, who is She Wolfe? The primal goddess, the woman who has never lost touch with the feral, the wild, the earth, that beating heart of the universe, the eternal mother, witch, crone, healer, nurturer, giver. The fierce matriarch, protective over life, all that is sacred and holy. The hunter, the rover, the midnight howler, the alchemist, the empress, the magician, the high priestess, the moon, and her 4 billion year-long watchful eye. The circle, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. All one infinity. So I love the way Devony Wolfe writes, and I have seen or heard people read her writing before, and it's really powerful. It's really empowered. It is very feminine driven, very in touch with the divine feminine, and that's definitely where my practice is right now. So I thought this would be a really wonderful deck for tapping into that as well. She does say that the She Wolfe is her second and final tarot deck. I do believe that the first one was the Serpent Fire. She says, my work is both retro-futuristic, I love that, retro-futuristic and erotic, bridging eons and ancient cultures with the timeless grace of the human form. It also focuses on the spiritual, the existential through themes of Kundalini and the cosmos, our eternal selves. I have pared down its aesthetics to the most important elements. No borders, no numbers, only the art and the symbolism. I have to say that is one of the things that really draws me about this deck is the aesthetics of it. A lot of times in collage decks, there's a lot going on, and I feel like this is a little bit more of a scaled back collage, similar to like the Spolia Tarot, although I feel like this does have a little bit more busy artwork than the Spolia does. But again, I love that kind of more simplistic collage artwork. While I do enjoy now, and I've come to appreciate really busy collaged decks because there's a lot to sink into, this kind of imagery I find to be a bit more in tune with my energy in a sense, right? It resonates closer to me than some of those busier decks do. Again, this is a Thoth-based tarot deck, which you'll see as we get into it. So I really like the imagery in this deck. I'm going to kind of do a quick flip through as I talk. I love the color palette. Some of these cards lean a little bit more into the Pamela Coleman Smith art style, not art style representation, than they do Lady Frida Harris's. I love all the divine feminine energy. This is Devony Wolfe herself, and I've had a couple of people like ask me, what do you think of the creator putting themselves in the deck? And I don't know this person, I don't know this creator, but when I look at this card and I know that is her, the first thing that comes to mind is this empowered kind of like no nonsense feeling of, yeah, I am the high priestess, you can be too, and that is what this deck is going to help you do. And if you don't like it, too bad, this is me, because here she is, she's in the card, she's the high priestess, she's naked except for her hat and her almost kind of Hathor goddess headdress that the collage is creating. And I love the attitude in it. I'll just be perfectly honest. I do love the attitude. It gives me the idea of like, I'm the high priestess, you can be the high priestess too, and you don't have to be ashamed or apologetic about it. You can own that. And I love that. Really like the divine feminine and masculine cards. Again, I love the color palette in this deck. It's just fantastic. Love this idea with the light and dark side of the self. The Lovers, really looking at that idea of kind of the dualistic energy of the self as well. The Chariot is beautiful. I do quite like the Lust card. Love that everything has a little bit of an Egyptian feel to it. Again, the Thoth also has a lot of Egyptian references to it as well. And it kind of reminds me of things like the Moonchild, although this feels much more raw than the Moonchild. The Moonchild feels, in comparison to this, sweet and unobtrusive. And this deck, the She Wolfe Tarot, feels much more raw, much more wild. I really do enjoy that energy about it. It feels like very empowered feminine energy. Like we're not going to take any crap and this is how it's going to be. And I love that. I do really like this balance card. I do believe these two have changed, and I do really like them. The Hanged Being, again, I love the simplicity of the collage in some of these cards. It's collage, but it's not overwhelming collage. And I love that she has really focused in on just the real basic symbols of the cards and express that through simple collage and just the titles. They're also not numbered, so you could move them around if that worked better for you. We do have a lot of kind of body beautiful figures in this deck, but there has been an attempt made to create some diversity. This Will of Mars and Change of the Tower is really interesting. I do love what she said in the guidebook about it's all the layers of self. I don't know that this collage work necessarily gives me that idea, but having read that in the guidebook, I can see it now. Beautiful star card, very retro. I love this moon card. Really interesting. Her approach to the moon is really about the shadow self, so that's interesting. Gorgeous sun card. So yeah, it's a beautiful deck. We do have those, what did you call them? The Secret Arcana with the Saturn and Mercury cards. I don't know if I will leave those in the deck just because I'm still kind of learning the Thoth. Although I see influences from other systems in this deck too. So I'm not sure that it is strictly a Thoth-based deck. We also don't have any keywords, and some of these images feel a bit more in the way that Pamela Coleman Smith depicted the cards. And so it's kind of, to me, looking through it just at first glance, it kind of feels like a nice little hybrid of the two systems, which I do quite enjoy. Because there are some things about the Thoth Tarot that I like better than the Smith-Waite Tarot and vice versa. So it's kind of a nice little blend. Again, I love the simplicity of the collage, but then I also love cards like this where it's not a centrally focused collage, right? It does take up the whole card, but there's still, in terms of a collage deck, there's not that much going on. It really allows us to just sink in and focus. This is one of the cards that made me want to buy the deck. It's just beautiful. I love this card too, with the breastfeeding baby. I think that's amazing. I love all the Egyptian references, the divine feminine references that we get in this deck. It's quite wonderful. And I do actually love that the figures are nude, because to me that really speaks to kind of just releasing all of the material and focusing in on this spiritual journey, this spiritual evolution that we're going to take working with this deck and through the journey of these cards. And I think that's actually quite wonderful. Really speaks to me of the idea of getting beyond the mundane and kind of getting down deep into the self. This Eight of Wands has always fascinated me, and I did kind of look in the guidebook, and it's about showing the ascension of self, and I think that's really cool. Again, a little bit more of like kind of that moonchild essence here that we might see, but this is just much more raw. It's much more wild. It's almost feral in a lot of ways, and I think that's really cool. I love some of the you know, different kind of duality aspects that we get in these cards as well. This card is fantastic. I mean, it is a mountain, a planet, a person, and a doorway in the sky. It's a simple collage, but there is a lot that you could dig into this imagery as well. So yeah, I just think it's really cool. It's definitely different than a lot of things that I have in my collection now, and I'm finding I really appreciate that. I'm really enjoying working with decks that do something a little bit different than, you know, just your typical Waite-Smith, following your typical Waite-Smith structure. Although I think that can be depicted beautifully as well. I'm just where I am currently in my practice. I'm just really enjoying things that do something a little bit different. This card has always fascinated me too. I don't know what it is about it. It's just all these kind of characters, and this, like the bull and the whatever this is, the sheep maybe. It's just interesting to me. I want to do some more work with that card. I love this when she talked about getting grounded. I do believe this is a new card, and I love the mushrooms. I like mushrooms, so interesting. Four of Pentacles. So yeah, really kind of beautiful, very unique deck. You know, the closest thing I really have in my collection to this is something like the Moonchild, and that has a completely different energy. Like I said, that's kind of soft and feminine and unobtrusive, and this is like raw and in your face and unapologetic, and I kind of love that. All right, I am gonna see if I can riffle shuffle this, because it is a little bit glossy and slippery, and it is larger. It's kind of closer to oracle size, and I kind of struggle with that usually. I mean, once I get it going, you can see here, like I struggle probably because of the length of it, but once I got it going, it actually riffle shuffled well. I know you're not supposed to riffle shuffle gilded decks. I do. Whatever, I want to use them. And riffle shuffling is how I connect with a deck, so, or how I work through my reading ritual in a sense. They actually shuffle really well. I do like the cardstock, even though it's a bit slippy, it's a bit glossy. It is really flexible, which is really nice. So we're just gonna do my split shuffle technique to get it just a good mix. Sometimes with a deck like this, I'll only kind of do this sort of riffle shuffle the first time or two I work with the deck, and then I'll try to just overhand it for a while. And then if I feel like I'm getting too many repeating cards because I'm not getting a good enough shuffle, I'll do the split shuffle again. Again, because it's large, it's not the easiest deck for me to work with. And I have this issue with every Oracle size tarot deck I own because I have little hands and it's just difficult for me to shuffle. But for some decks, I make an exception, and for others, I'm like, nope, tired of fighting with you. I love these backs. I just really do. I don't know, there's just something so pretty and feminine about the backs. And then you're like, boom, like take that. That is some straight up raw feminine energy for you. I love it. I love it. Okay, I want to do just a quick 3-card reading. Woo, I bent a card. That's rude. I mean, myself was rude, right? Rude to myself. All right, let's you guys, when my Queen of Pentacles comes up, right? I've said it before. I think this has happened before. When I pull a Queen of Pentacles, and we're gonna side tangent, when I get a new deck, and I do my first pull with it, as you see what I'm doing here, and I pull the Queen of Pentacles in that first pull, like every time I know that means it's gonna be an amazing deck for me to work with. And it almost always does end up being an amazing deck for me to work with. So that usually is a really good indication that I'm gonna jive with this deck and we are going to do some great, fantastic work together. So I love that when that comes up right in the very first reading. So we have the Queen of Pentacles, Death, and the 7 of Swords. I love that. So the Queen of Pentacles, I just want to look in on her real quick. So it talks about creating her own little oasis, which is wonderful. It reminds us of the beautiful balance between the two elements, earth and water. We are being asked when we receive her in a reading to discover how we can marry those elements together in a way that creates true glory in our life. I think that's beautiful. Death was, if I remember correctly, Death was the card about the symbolic death, but it talked about, you know, death being the external side where the Tower is the internal side. So creating that oasis, letting the things die that really aren't serving us, which I tell you, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. 7 of Swords. I just want to look this one up real quick too. Okay, so it talks about the search for truth, ruling the mental sphere. It says, I cast off my mask and I find joy in the success of others. Like, I'm trying to kind of think of where this might be applying in my life. It's an interesting reading. It's kind of a like slap you upside the face kind of a reading too, right? It's not sugarcoating it. It's definitely saying the 7 of Swords is dealing with some unpleasant stuff. So maybe what I need to do is tap into this death energy here in this card of that kind of letting that external stuff go and really focusing on the internal and creating that oasis. That's kind of the message that I'm getting, but it's definitely something that I might want to sit with for a while longer, do a little bit more reading in the guidebook. I just want to point out real quick that in a lot of ways, a lot of times the minor arcana cards have just as much writing as the majors, which I like to see. There's a lot to dig into. The minors have the artwork illumination, kind of giving us an idea of what's in the card. We also have the light, the shadow, and the mantra, and of course the keywords. And then we also have the astrological or elemental correspondences as well, which is really cool. So this is a really, really thorough little guidebook. We also have some reading spreads with situation, challenge, solution, a dream reading, a full and new moon spread, a birthday year ahead spread, and then on the back there is a glossary of terms, which is really interesting. So we have things like imposter syndrome, magic, master voice, path, and in the guidebook there are little some of these words come up and there's an asterisk next to them to let you know that there's more information in the back of the book. Some information on shadow work and shadow self. The tree of life, truth, underworld, and void. Then we have work. And then of course we have a bibliography and resources and photo credits, which is always really wonderful. So yeah, this is really, look what I did to it. This is a really, really good little guidebook. I don't mind when my guidebooks end up looking like this because that means I've used them and that's a good thing. I'm super happy that I got my Queen of Pentacles in this first pull because I think that's just really, really fantastic and definitely kind of pulls me a little bit closer in, a little bit personal, more personal relationship with this deck. I still love this Eight of Cups. There's something about this Eight of Cups. In fact, I want to pull that out because I want to do some journaling on that here when we're done. So I'm going to pull that out. I'm going to do some work on the Eight of Cups, and I'm going to do some work on that 3-card reading that I got. I think that this is the edition that is either currently on pre-order or getting ready to come out. I will definitely check on that, put some links in the description box below for you. In the meantime, my friends, thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to sharing with you again soon.